The Big Sleep is one of my all-time favorite films. It's well known, but maybe not as well known as the other stone-cold Bogart classics. African Queen, Casablanca, Key Largo, Maltese Falcon, To Have and Have Not, Treasure of the Sierra Madre. It was marketed and reshot to capitalize on the blazing chemistry between Bogey and Bacall, who had just burned up the screens in To Have and Have Not. It's also known as the movie a slumming William Faulkner adapted from Raymond Chandler's great novel, and for Chandler himself admitting that he couldn't follow his own plot. It is super noir. Maybe not as dark as the Maltese Falcon, but fedora-wearing, battle-weary, femme fatale, cheap gangsters, nasty, urban, underworld noir. But beyond these obvious reasons to love the film, I'd like to offer a few other things I love about this movie. Yes, and I love it even more than the phenomenal and more impressive Casablanca. If you haven't seen it, don't worry about spoilers. I've seen this movie about 2 gajillion times, and I still have plot points that I need to iron out every time. But first, a quick summary. Unlike most murder mysteries, the answer to whodunit is almost immaterial in The Big Sleep. Jaded private eye Philip Marlowe gets hired by an eccentric millionaire named General Sternwood, who has 2 wild daughters. The old general wants Marlowe to stop a blackmailing scam on his younger daughter, Carmen. But everyone else in town, including the general's older daughter, Vivian, assumes that Marlowe has been hired to find out what happened to an Irish rum runner named Sean Regan. This is just post-Prohibition. In the book, he's Vivian's husband, but that's a little too racy for 1930s Hollywood. In less than a day, Marlowe discovers that the Sternwood family is involved in pornography, nymphomania, graft, and more than a few murders. Naturally, he falls in love with the older daughter, Vivian. 7 people get murdered in this film, with 7 different killers, 1 in self-defense, most of them off-screen. The Irish rum runner by an angry nympho, the pornographer by the jealous chauffeur killed by idiot blackmailer killed by vengeful boyfriend, wimpy grifter killed by nasty thug killed by weary private detective, and criminal mastermind killed by stupid goons. Obviously, this is a lot to take in. The dialogue moves really fast.
But I don't like your manners.
Well, I'm not crazy about yours. I didn't ask to see you. I don't mind if you don't like my manners. I don't like them myself. They're pretty bad. I grieve over them long winter evenings, and I don't mind you ritzing me or drinking your lunch out of a bottle. But don't waste your time trying to cross-examine me.
People don't talk to me like that.
Oh.
If you're intimidated, there is an alternative original cut of the film which is a lot easier to follow, but it's also a lot less fun. But setting aside the labyrinthine plot and romance, here are some other reasons to love this film. Casting. If you removed the 2 amazing leads from this film, what's left would be a feature-length cross-section of 1930s Los Angeles, played by a parade of character actors, written and played brilliantly. The opening 5 minutes with General Sternwood, who we never see again in the film, are priceless.
You're looking, sir, at a very dull survival of a very gaudy life.
As is every scene with minor characters like Jonesy, the too small tough guy.
I came here with a straight proposition, take it or leave it. You start waving cops at me. You ought to be ashamed of yourself.
Iris, the long-suffering gangster's mole. Brody, the dumb grifter.
He gives me a pain
That
in
goes
my...
for me, too. Well, you got your pictures. Get out.
Where does it give you pain?
Right in
Look,
my...
Norris, the ideal butler.
I'm sorry, sir. I make many mistakes.
The unnamed horny bookseller.
Looks like we're closed for the rest of the afternoon.
Joe and Pete, the beleaguered henchmen.
Mrs. Rutledge. Yeah, Mrs. Rutledge wants to see me.
How did you know?
He told me.
I didn't hear him tell you anything.
He didn't.
And Canino, who is the face of evil.
What's the matter, Jones? Ain't you ever seen a gun before?
Bernie, the wisecracking cop.
Well, I'm going out and get some breakfast. You want a cup of coffee?
I can't afford to be seen with you.
Or, of course, Eddie Mars, who is the nicest sick killer you're ever going to meet.
You're worried about where I am all the time. I don't like you that well.
I'll admit that as a teenager, this movie grabbed me because there were so many beautiful women in it. And as a grown-up, I'm still pretty captivated by the chemistry with the bookseller, and I adore Agnes. She is so ruthless.
You do sell books.
What do those look like? Grapefruit?
Well, from here they look like books.
And Carmen puts me right back where I was as a dumb teenager. The script. Raymond Chandler was a genius at dialogue, and Faulkner certainly would have had an affinity for his hero's tortured monologues. But the crackling discussions in this harken back to Lee Brackett, who also crafted an early draft of The Empire Strikes Back. I'd love to think that Marlowe and Vivian's antagonistic romance, clinging to each other in the constant face of death and pursued by a cold-blooded killer, has echoes in that other quippy romance.
I happen to like nice men.
Nice man.
Very nice.
Dissonance. When Marlowe gets jumped in an alleyway and sets off for Rialto for those of us who live in the real Southern California, the tone darkens considerably. And in this it reminds me of The Empire Strikes Back. Again, if you'll permit me, it also reminds me of another one of my top 5 films, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Now I know it's a stretch to connect these 3 movies, but hear me out. These 3 films, all Hollywood hits having little else in common, share a discordant 3-act structure. Each opens up with fun, banter, potential adventure. The hero is a wisecracking bad boy with tricks up his sleeve and little regard for other people's feelings.
My, such a lot of guns around town and so few brains.
Where's your brain? Why'd you kick me? Where's your brain?
If I were still out there, I don't think it's wise.
Time to discuss at the committee.
I am not a committee.
Then comes a second act where you feel the hero's protected hearts opened up beyond their cynical exteriors.
Maybe Ferris isn't such a bad guy.
Marlowe will work essentially for free to help the old general. Princess Leia's actually a pretty nice gal once she knows nobody's watching. And then Act 3 gets incredibly dark. Cameron goes catatonic and destroys the Ferrari.
Luke gets his hand cut off, finds out Vader's his father, hand gets frozen, taken away by Boba Fett. It ends on such a down note.
Marlowe watches Jonesy get murdered, he's beaten up twice by Canino, and he goes through a series of extravagant tricks to kill first Canino and then Eddie Mars. And he straight out admits that he really hates this stuff.
I'm tired. My jaw hurts and my ribs ache. I killed a man back there and I had to stand by while a harmless little guy was killed.
All the earlier fun and games have been washed away. Which brings me to point 4. Morality. These movies are all deeply, unapologetically moral. There's no reason for Marlowe to stick his neck out for General Sternwood. He likes Vivian, but he can certainly find romance elsewhere.
If you can use me again sometime, call this number.
Day and night?
Night's better. I work during the day.
But he knows it's the right thing to do. Ferris, who like Marlowe has shown himself to be an amoral trickster when getting the job done, throws himself unselfishly under the Ferrari for Cameron.
I'll take the heat for it. We'll wait for your father to come home, and when he gets here, I'll tell him that I did it. He hates me anyway.
But Cameron won't let him.
No. I'll take it.
No, you don't want this much heat.
I want it. If I didn't want it, I wouldn't have let you take the car out this morning.
And Leia, Han, Luke, and Lando all go to absurd risks to help their friends, despite more pragmatic solutions being available. In each film, we arrive at the finish line panting for a break, and we get at best a little human connection. Leia, Luke, and Vader share a family moment. Ferris and his sister Jeannie reach an uneasy truce. Marlowe and Vivian realize that they have to trust each other despite painful sacrifices. In none of these films do we feel like the resolution will last, but at least for today, we can lay back and sleep. The Big Sleep isn't a message film, except that it holds up Philip Marlowe as a knight in dingy armor, living out his code in a world that doesn't care. I suppose all my favorite films are variations of Don Quixote. Marlowe, Ferris, Leia, and Han could leave those windmills alone. But who knows? They might be giants.